Okay. Welcome again to the class. This evening, we want to look at managing project risk. And every activity we engage in comes with some form of risk. Now, what we want to really look at is how to deal with risk and uncertainty. So what I will want you to do is to type your questions in the chat, or better to write them out. And when we get to the end, I will permit you to ask your questions. When you talk about uncertainty, then you are referring to things whose outcomes are not known. So we are in the rainy season, but there is still uncertainty about whether rain will fall or it will not. And if it will fall, at what time will it fall? But when we talk about risk, we are referring to things that are probable. So it is probable that it will rain. And that makes the risk, that makes the issue of the rain coming a risk. But there is also a difference between what is unpleasant and what is a risk. For us to describe an unpleasant situation as a risk, it ought to have disrupted planned activities. So if it is probable that it will rain, then the rain can be termed as a risk. However, before it will qualify, it can be termed as a risk event. Before it will qualify as a risk, that rain must disrupt productive activities or planned activity. So we have planned to have a concert, a musical concert. We know it is probable that it will rain. So the possibility of a rain is a risk event. But the rain falling will become a risk if it disrupts the musical concert and prevents it from coming off as planned. So I have talked about two broad things, that is uncertainty and risk. And I've also talked about two broad aspects under risk. The fact that a risk event can be an unpleasant event, but it gets to become a real risk when it becomes disruptive. So uncertainty are activities whose outcomes are not known, and risks are activities whose outcomes are probable. And in that, we have what is unpleasant and what is a risk. So I lost my pen. I went to the bank and it was closed. I missed the bus. My food poured away. Somebody stole my keys. All of these are unpleasant activities or events. None of them becomes a risk until it is able to disrupt a productive activity or an activity that you have planned. Hold on.
Okay, that's
so now we want to look at identifying project risk, creating the risk management plan, carrying out a qualitative and quantitative risk analysis. Then we look at risk response planning process, and then risk monitoring and control. So I'm sure by now you appreciate the fact that for something to qualify as a risk, it must not necessarily be an unpleasant situation. It must be a disruptive one. If it does not disrupt anything, if somebody stole my keys and I did not even know that my keys were stolen, and I came to the room and met my roommates, that stealing of my keys has not become a risk. It becomes a risk when I'm supposed to go to class. I went to Pajo to train. I expect to rush to my room to bath to catch the class. And then I went and then I couldn't find my key. And as a result, I couldn't bath early. And because of that, I missed my class. Yes, then that stealing of the keys has become a risk event. So when we talk about project risk, we are referring to those unpleasant things that can happen on the project, but that will cause a disruption in planned project activity. If they will not lead to any disruption of planned project activities, then they don't qualify as project risk. Okay, that said, we say that the management of risk is an art and a science. When we say something is a science, it is not too difficult to comprehend because we know the scientific approach involves observation, collection of data, testing, and confirmation. It is a very rigid process. But when we say something is an art, it means it goes with creativity and innovation. So it means that the management of risk is both a creative endeavor, an innovative endeavor, and a rigid endeavor. And so we use that to identify, analyze, and respond to those risk factors throughout the life of the project. And the aim is to ensure that objectives are achieved without any disruption. Today, one of the very risky events is social media. Before you realize, somebody has taken an unwelcome picture of you, and then it is roaming on social media. To manage that, you need innovation and creativity. But you must also know the science of deleting messages that have been sent to multiple phones. So you delete it at once. So let's go back to our National Theatre project. From the beginning, we started talking about doing a musical concert at the National Theatre. And so if we look at this, part of the scope activities will be for us, one, to secure the National Theatre, to determine our advertisement approach. That's how we will publicize the event. Then the guest performing lists, then rehearsals, then the actual performance on the day, security issues, parking, and all of that. Now, when we are going to look at risk, then we have to isolate each of these activities and look at what kind of risk we are likely to face. So let's start with booking the National Theatre. It is possible that you will not get the date you want. If you don't get the date you want, then it will disrupt your planned performance. That is why it will be a risk, because the other date that you will get may not be an appropriate time for musical concerts. When people are celebrating Easter and they are supposed to be mourning the death of Christ, and you are doing a musical concert, I don't know how much patronage you will get as compared to if you are doing a musical concert at Christmas when it is a celebration of a birth. I'm a Muslim. I may not be your target because I may not necessarily share in the thoughts, but you are targeting people and you are looking at a time when you will get the most people. So if we don't get the date we want at the National Theatre, it could disrupt the planned performance, and therefore not getting the date has become a risk. Then we come to guest lists. You may put a fantastic guest list, and then when you contact them, they will tell you that they are not available. You can advertise and you will still not get the patronage you want. If you don't get the patronage you want, what will be the disruption? It will disrupt the financial revenue. It will disrupt the revenue that you intended to get, and therefore all your financial analysis will be thrown off gear. So identifying risk and analyzing it is trying to know what risk you are likely to face, what risk events you are likely to face. Then its analysis is determining the likelihood of occurrence, and when it occurs, what will be the consequence. So look at the example I gave, that we developed a guest list, that is a performance guest list. So we want to bring maybe Shatawale, we want to bring Stone Boy, we want to bring whatever boy, and all the boys. Now you use that to plan your publicity, and then each of them starts saying, I will not be there, I will not be there. Clearly, it will disrupt your performance. And if you don't tell the people because you think that with their names on your ticket, people will come. When people come and those people don't perform, those people will not trust you again. The next time you call for a musical concert, nobody will come. So now you have identified the risk, that is the artist withdrawing. What will be your response? Getting standby popular artists, so that in the event that some of the known ones pull out, you can quickly replace. And this must happen until the day we perform. That is why we mean by throughout the life of the project. Our project is performing a musical concert at National Theatre. From the day we conceive the idea until the day we perform, we have the musical concert. We are in the process of identifying risk, analyzing it, and responding to it. So any event that can negatively affect the viability of a project is deemed as a project risk. Now, project risk is oh, the slide is at one place, so let me stop sharing and share again. Can you see now? Is it moving? Okay, good. Great. So you know that there is nothing more risky than you investing money into a venture that you do not know what its outcome will be. So we say that as time elapses in the project, that is, as we move from conception to development to execution and to finishing, risk also grows. risk also grows. And so, give me a minute. Okay, okay. So, sorry, I had to pick this call. So we say that as time elapses, so is the amount of money at stake. Because when you conceive an idea and you begin to think through the idea, you are investing time and effort. And remember, time is money. So as you move from conception to development, you are incurring more costs because now you may involve other people in thinking about your idea. So we say that as time elapses through the project, so is increasing amounts. The amount at stake increases. It also means that our risk is increasing because as more time and effort is expended, more money is involved, and that also means increasing risk. Because at that time, any failure means that our planned return on the money we are spending will be lost. And that is why it will be a risk. So the money we are spending is risk because if we are not successful, we lose that money. Now, there is opportunity in the risk because as you conceive an idea, the outcome is something that brings you joy. So look at the day you bought the university form. You were thinking about the program you intend to do. Then you thought that business administration was something that you will be interested in. I can bet you some of you already started seeing yourself graduating. You see yourself in the gown. You see yourself roaming about with the degree. And the joy it brings you is immeasurable. At the same time, you will find that you are also looking at the opportunities that a degree will bring you. A good job, family, good life. Now, as you came to the school, you started by paying your fees and paying for hostel. First risk. So at this time, if you were unable to continue the school, you have lost the school fees and you have lost your hostel money. That is a big risk. So you see that as much as there is opportunity at the beginning because you are thinking of the end, there is also risk and both of them are high. But at that time also, the amount you have spent is low. Permit me to give you a painful example, an unpleasant one, but I think that is the best example. Look at somebody who gets to final year and dies, as compared to somebody who dies in first year. They are both very painful deaths, but the death of the person in final year, in addition to the pain in the heart, also comes with the pain of having lost all that money. You will think that the person should have used his money to buy kebab, get some nice hotel, enjoy themselves, and then die peacefully. But it's not like that. Life is not like that. So at the initial stages, the amount expended is low, but the opportunity and risk are high. Now, as we move through development and execution, you begin to see the reality. So some of you have come, you have realized that, hey, it's not easy to learn. No, hey, you have to go to class. You have to tolerate all kinds of people, including Muntaka. You have to tolerate your roommates. You have to tolerate landlords who misbehave. You have to tolerate. So even at some point you think, why don't I stop this thing, cry and go? Then you realize that you cannot, because you are investing in your future. Therefore, you brace yourself to face all the risk. But as you begin to smell the certificate, like now you are in final year and you are hearing about unemployment, hey, you see that all the opportunity you were thinking about begins to come down. And at the same time, the risk is, Said, don't worry, I intentionally said that. The opportunity you were thinking about is dwindling. And then at the same time, the risk, anybody who thinks of me as scary doesn't like principles. It's like that. Hey, you heard about me before coming to school. Wow, that is interesting. Okay. All said and done, now you know me. And so you also have a clear impression about me. Anyway, yes, some porters are very annoying. No, that is not for you. So all I want to say is that the opportunity and the risk that you have been thinking about is dwindling. At the same time, the amount of money, if you add your first year fees to your second year fees, to your third year fees, to final year fees, you see that the amount of money that has been spent so far is very huge. But the time that risk is the highest. Irene, it's good though. It's good you saw me. Aaron, you haven't dealt with me closely. I'm not scared. I believe in principles. So, well, so we are saying that if you combine the opportunity and the risk, then you get a cumulative frequency curve sort of, where the risk is lowest at the beginning, then it is highest between the tail end of execution and close. Obi, Eugenia, it's interesting. I didn't know that too. Okay. Life is like that. So this is when you saw me in black spectacles, his heart beeped. Don't worry, life is like that. At this stage in your life, you see that you are in the period of highest risk impact. Because should anything happen and you don't get to graduate, you will have wasted the money. If you look at those who led the charge against Unity Hall, 3 of them were dismissed students, 1 was withdrawn, and 1 had been rusticated. And funny enough, the 3 were all dismissed at 3rd year. The withdrawn student was going to final year, and the rusticated student was also going to final year. That's what we mean by period of highest risk, because when you allow anything to happen at this time in your life, look, if you don't learn and you trail a course, you postpone your graduation by 1 year. If you refuse to obey simple instructions and you get yourself entangled into things that you shouldn't, you may end up with the police. You may end up being dismissed by the university. That is why. So you see that if you are dismissed, all the money that has been invested in you and the kind of future that you are thinking about are all lost, or at least temporarily lost. That's why the period halfway between execution and finish is the period of highest risk. In Ghana, for most projects, that is the period when they are stopped, when they are abandoned. So you roam about and you see uncompleted buildings. You see roads that have started that have not been completed. You see so many things that have involved national investment, and yet they are allowed to waste. And all the money invested in it goes down the drain. Okay, so that said, what is the process of risk management? You see, processes are steps, procedures that we take to achieve an aim. So in order for us to manage risk, we will have to take certain steps. We have to follow certain procedures. And before you even determine the project risk, which is you looking at the probability of a risk event occurring and the consequence when it occurs, you have to ask yourself some 4 very important questions. We want to know what is likely to happen. So we want to book the National Theatre, or we are going to the World Cup. What is likely to happen? We can have a very solid team or a very useless team. We can have all our players being healthy and upbeat for the tournament, or we can end up with a number of injuries so that some of our important players cannot play. As far as our National Theatre project is concerned, we can go to book the date and we will not get the dates. We can invite some guests and we will not get them. We can advertise and spend a lot of money, and yet we will not get the publicity we are looking for. So all these are things that can happen. Then you want to know what can be done about those things that can happen. I didn't say any team is useless. I'm saying we can get there and we will have a team that is depleted by injury. So what can be done? If one of the risks or one of the things that is likely to happen is the fact that we may not be able to book the National Theatre on the date we want, what can be done? Can we get another hall that we can hire for the musical concerts? Do we have to postpone the musical concerts till the following year? Should we abandon the musical concert idea altogether? All these are things that can be done. But then we want to know what are the warning signs for those things that are likely to happen. Are we envisaging an event season where there will be a lot of bookings at the National Theatre? Or we are looking at a season where all the artists will be busy? So these are some warning signs. Then we want to find out what are the likely outcomes. So what will be the outcome if we don't get the National Theatre and we go for a standby hall, or we go for an alternative hall like the International Conference Center, or even the conference room of a hotel, or the pool side of a hotel or something? What will be the outcome? Are we likely to get more coverage, more patronage, or less patronage? Because sometimes when you miss the city center, many people will not want to go to the periphery for fear of being attacked. So all that, yeah, you can also look at extra cost is an outcome. Once you change plans, there will be outcomes, and extra cost is one of them. Yes, you can disappoint the people too. That's good. So Generally, to determine a project risk after we have asked ourselves all these what questions is to find out what the probability of the event is. So what is the probability of the event occurring? So what is the probability that we will not get the National Theatre? What is the probability that we will not get the artist we want? What is the probability that we'll be disappointing our people? Some of these things you have to come out with. Eliasu, have you suffered a broken heart? You have to come out with a theoretically assumed figure. So maybe there's a 40% chance, a 20% chance, an 80% chance. All of that is going to determine your likelihood. My word of caution here is for you to avoid calling saying that likelihood is 0. Because when you say likelihood is 0, it means you are saying that that risk event will never occur. For we those who are religious, we know that is a challenge to God. And when the Titanic engineers challenge God, God showed them where his power is. So what may, even when something looks like it is not likely to happen, give it about a 5% or 10% chance of occurring. You are playing it safe. As for consequence, it is always very easy to determine. We want to do a performance at the National Theatre. If we were to be able to perform, we are likely to get this revenue. If we don't perform because we couldn't book the National Theatre, the consequence is the fact that we will get no revenue. So if I'm holding a cell phone and there's a likelihood that the cell phone can fall, then the consequence is what will happen to the phone, the lost value. So when the phone falls, chances are the screen will break. And if the screen breaks and the phone is not destroyed, you have to change the screen. That is the consequence of the fall. If the screen and the phone will destroy altogether, then the cost of a new phone becomes the consequence. I hope you get it. So consequence is always the lost value. And you must look around for everything. So if a ceiling fan should fall, chances are the ceiling fan will spoil. But the ceiling fan could also break the tiles or destroy the ground. That in itself is part of cost and is part of the consequence. Then we come to stages of risk management. So the processes are the steps, the procedures we have to take. The stages are planning points that must draw our attention. So first is risk identification. We must have a time period when we are thinking only about what is likely to happen. What are the risks? And this is a planning issue. It's a planning issue. So at planning, we are thinking about the risks. I have just taken you through how we can think about the risks associated with our musical concert at the National Theatre. Then, for any risk identified, you have to analyze the probability of occurrence and the consequence. Then, you look at how do you minimize or eliminate this risk. That is mitigation. Then, you have to control, because after you have developed this document and you go to implementation, the risk event may occur. When it occurs, you are expected to take an action. When you take that action, then now we can come and compare whether or not the action you took is as planned. If it is not as planned, then you have to introduce corrective action, because you have to find out why and whether the new way you did it has brought you benefit or costs. And then you document, because the human life is all about improvements. And therefore, we expect that we document what happens to us so that it becomes a learning tool or something, a learning material for those who will come after us. So Isaac Newton had some experiences, and because he documented his experiences, we have the Newton's first law of motion, second law of motion, and third law of motion. Communication waves started with Marconi, and he determined that sound is able to move between 2 points in such a way that the person at the tail end, depending on how the sound and the angle it moves, can hear clearly. And then that was documented. And today we have radio, we have television, we have telecommunication. So documentation is important. Write down some of the things that happened to you and how you went about dealing with them. Someday you can use it to advise your own children, your siblings, and even your parents. It doesn't mean children cannot advise parents. They can, depending on how you go about it. You can even, depending on your experience, advise your parents on how to take care of your junior brothers and sisters, your siblings, because your parents may have conducted your training in a way. Your training may have brought you benefits or difficulties in life. Share it with them, document it, share it with them, and help them avoid the same treatment to your siblings. Now, if you have to identify risk, what are the options available to you? How can you do that? You can have brainstorming meetings where you bring people who have experiences in dealing with risk or identifying risk to come and help you identify the risks that you face. You see that in talking about the musical concerts at the National Theatre, I am able to talk about some of the risks that we are likely to face. It doesn't come easy. If I was to ask you to present it, it will have taken you time. That's it. Mm-hmm. 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 So is the only one person or two people, one of the two people who can call, and their calls have to be picked at all times. My mom and my sweetheart, and in this case, it was my sweetheart calling. Okay, I know some of you will be jealous, but it's fine. Someday you have your own. Okay, in risk factor identification, we have brainstorming meetings. You can also use expert opinion. Using expert opinion is for you to invite consultants. Yeah, love can be very sweet, and if it is not done at the right time and in the right way, it can be very, very bitter. Expert, yes, that's what I'm up to. You know, when we are brainstorming, we bring people. For me, it's very sweet. You sure that when I picked the call, I called her sweet. We have been married for 16 years. So if I still call her sweet after 16 years, it means she's really sweet. Anyway, brainstorming is when you bring people together to think about the issue. These people may not necessarily be experts in what you are causing them to discuss. For example, you and I can discuss some of the risk factors associated with living on campus. Is that okay? What you are going to do is to use your experiences to tell me, please, it's enough. To tell me what you think the risk of living on campus is, or what life is on campus. But we have people who have devoted their lives to studying life on campus. These are experts. And so when you bring them to help you identify risk, we say you are using expert opinion, because at the end of the day, what they are going to share with you is their opinion. But you will believe them because you believe that they have what it takes to be able to identify risk. That's all. Aha. So the difference between brainstorming and expert opinion is that whoever is going to provide an expert advice ought to be very, very experienced in that endeavor. But as for brainstorming, if you are at a place and people are thinking about something, you are free to share your view, whether you have expertise in it or not. You can also look at past history, where you look at that activity that you intend to do, how it has been done in the past, what challenges were faced, and how those challenges were overcome. You can also use multiple team assessment, where you have teams, you divide the people into teams, and each team thinks about the kinds of risk that we can face. So let's say we are 7 people, or it is our class. You are supposed to be 202 or so. So if we, the 202 people, are going to think about risk factors, we can divide ourselves into 10, 10, 10, 20, 20, 20, and each group will think about what kinds of risk events we are likely to face. Then we can meet to synthesize and merge them, so that those that have been mentioned multiple times will be listed as one, and then those that have not been mentioned are listed together. For all you know, all 20 teams will come out with 10, 10, 10, 10 risk factors, but 5 may be common to all. So those are multiple team assessment, and it is a good way of identifying risks. These are all qualitative ways of identifying risk. That is where you use intuition and experience. You realize that we did not talk about assigning any numerical values to this brainstorming meeting. What numerical value are you going to give? Maybe expert opinion, you can know the number of experts you are bringing and so on, but the outcomes are not numerical. They are descriptive. Then we have risk clusters in projects. That is principal sources from which risks can occur. So we have financial. This financial is coming from the money we are investing in the project. Remember that money has use. No organization has money that just sits there idle. If money is in the account of the organization and the organization is not using it, it could be because it is serving as a buffer for salaries. It could be because it is waiting for some materials to come and it will be used to pay. Money has use. That means if you invest money into a project and that project does not come to light, until he said, so do you quantitative methods of, I think a word is missing, so it's not making me get the question clear. Please retype. So the financial risks are as a result of the investment we are making. The fact that that project may not see the light of day and that money will have gone waste. That is a risk, and it is financial risk. Commercial risk is the kind of risk we face when the product we have produced out of the project does not do well in the market. So let's say we produce a new product like Fun Ice produced Fun Mango and Fun Banana. It started as a project. Okay. If there is time, somebody is asking me to brush through the cost management computations. Let's see how it goes. Commercial risk is coming from the fact that the product of the project will not do well on the market. So Fun Milk Ghana determines that Fun Yogo and Fun Ice only are becoming kind of outmoded or children's product. So they want to introduce variety. Yes, we do have quantitative risk assessment methods. That is mathematical, and that is usually for the finance students, accounting and finance. They do a lot of the quantitative risk assessment. We in projects and in supply chain, we just need to know it exists. And if you are interested, then you can build your knowledge in it. Yes, so we do have quantitative methods. But the basic quantitative method is risk times likelihood times consequence. It's basic, but we can use it to determine expected monetary value or expected values, and those ones can be computed and you can get your risk value. So I finished talking about commercial risk, and I say it is coming from the product of the project not doing well on the market. That is a commercial risk. Technical risk comes from specifications. You are welcome. Until technical risk comes from specifications. The risk that we will not be able to produce an output of the project that meets all the specifications and the standards. It brings us technical risk. Then we have execution risk. These are events that can happen during execution. So let's say on the day that we are having the performance at the National Theatre, somebody can come and break into people's cars and steal their cell phones and their laptops. I remember in 2014 or 15, business school, the master students used to write exams from 6 to 9. Their papers were 3 hours. One day it rained around, the rain stopped around 5:30. And so before 6:30, the place was very dark. Some persons came around, broke into 60 cars. And when the students are going to enter the exam hall, many of them hand over their laptops, their cell phones to their colleagues who have cars. And so the guys made away with several laptops. It was a chaotic situation. Unfortunately, there's nothing we could do because we are not responsible for people's laptops and cell phones. We could only console them with nice words. At that time, the university was not wired like today. Today, we could have reviewed the cameras and seen who did that. So since then, we used to give the cars security too. It increased our costs, and all that is part of execution risk. Then we have contractual and legal risk that is coming from contracts. If the contracts are signed and we have loopholes, gray areas like Ghanaian contracts, you see that people are able to take Ghana as a country to court and win. How? Who signed the contract on our behalf that people are able to sue us and win? Sometimes it is also as a result of the political big head. Okay, your job was given by party A, and because I am party B, I have stopped you from working. When you know that there was a contract governing that work, and canceling it will attract judgment debts. Because once you sign a contract with somebody to perform a particular action or to carry out a particular project, as long as the person has not violated the terms of the contract, you cannot abrogate the contract without consequences. And then it becomes a legal matter and we go to court, waste everybody's time, and at the end of the day, the court will rule against us. Then we have common types of risk. So the clusters at the top are the major groups or classifications of risk. Then we have the everyday risk: absenteeism, people resigning from the team, staff being pulled away from the project, time overruns. We spend more time than we should to finish activities, the unavailable skills, training that we have not provided adequately, like most companies. They say, oh, for your students, when they come, they are not able to fit in the organization. And then I tell them, people are behaving like ostriches. Why do you think that when somebody finishes the university, the person should come to your workplace and without any training should be able to perform? Let me just take the people doing logistics. You know that procurement processes in the private sector are different from procurement processes in the public sector. So if we have to teach procurement, according to which company's procurement rules, the private sector in particular, which company's rules do we have to teach? So we will take the basic generic procurement practice that will apply to public sector. Then we come and take the generic practice that will apply to private sector. But when you employ somebody as a supplies officer, as a procurement officer, you have to train the person on the rules and regulations of your own company and your procedures and processes for doing things. Well, if specifications are incomplete, it will generate technical risk. If orders are changed, it is likely to generate commercial risk. All these risks are risks that we have to think about. Sarah, you see, they are behaving like what are ostriches? You know, an ostrich. Find out about the characteristics of ostriches, and you see why I'm citing them. Okay, so when you take each of the risk clusters, we are just providing further explanation. I've talked about them already, and so you can read them further for your improved understanding. Now, if we want to do a qualitative risk assessment, we can use the risk impact matrix. So you see that on the x-axis, we have likelihood, and we are saying that likelihood can be high or it can be low. Yes, 3 years training and things, and then they forget that the graduates who come now have no 3 years. That's why sometimes we encourage you to do internships, because some of them will count the internships you have done as part of your work experience. Okay. Now, in assessing risk qualitatively, you can use this risk impact matrix. You see that when the yellow is first quadrant, those of you who have done elective maths, you know what I'm talking about. First quadrant is the yellow. Second quadrant is the pink. Third quadrant is the blue, light blue. And then the fourth quadrant is the red. Now, when you assess your risk to have low likelihood but high consequence, so look at us being able to book the National Theatre. What is the likelihood that the National Theatre will call us someday and tell us that we can no longer use the National Theatre if nothing has happened? It is very, very low. But if we book the National Theatre and advertise and let people know this is the date, and then at the last minute, National Theatre tells us that we cannot use the place, the consequence can be very hard, because by that time we will have invested in rehearsal, we will have even made some upfront payment to some of the artists so that we keep their commitment and so on. And you know, when money is expended, getting it back is very, very difficult. When you are in the, so for this kind of, we will come to mitigation and I'll ask you what, I'll come back to this and ask what we should do. So now, when you have low consequence and low risk, low consequence and low likelihood, then you are in the second quadrant. It means the likelihood of occurrence is low and the consequence should it occur is also low. For this kind of risks, you just accept them. You know they exist, yet you do nothing about it. Let me give you an example. Who amongst us doesn't know that walking along the road, you could be knocked down by a car? We all know on campus and at anywhere, but at least when you are walking on the campus roads, you know that the likelihood that a car will knock you down is very low, and the consequence, though, is also low. But since the student died as a result of a campus accident, I have revised my notes that the consequence can be very high, because I don't know if there's any higher risk than death. I don't think so. So for each of these quadrants, we will come and think about what mitigation strategies we will use, because that will be the essence. So we look at the type of risk variables. These are just additional risks that businesses face, because some projects, especially new product development, is normally projects in most organizations. So we have promotion risk, market risk. Please read all this for yourself for the benefit of multiple choice exams. Look at the political risk. So we have expropriation. We have discriminatory legislative. For example, we have a judge in Ghana saying he cannot imagine the people of Techiman South not having representation in parliament. Then the Cape Coast Asin North judge says he can envisage a situation where the people of Asin or Cape Coast or whatever do not have representation in parliament. So we are in the same nation, and yet some people are more important than others because they cannot be there without a representation. But the people of SAR can be there without representation. What a nice country. So Yusuf, you are saying, is risk assessed in the context of objectives of the business, or it is confined to the immediate aims of the project? In assessing risk, you don't leave anything out. Because remember, for an event to rise to the level of it becoming a risk, it must be able to disrupt normal activities or planned activities. So it means that we could be assessing risk from the objective point of view, or from the aims point of view. But at the end of the day, remember, it is the objectives of the business. It is from the objectives of the business that the aims of a project are carved. So let me give you an example. It is the objective of KNUST to make sure that every student is seated comfortably during classes or during lectures. So if we are putting up a lecture hall, the aim of that lecture hall project is to help us achieve the objective of making sure every student is comfortably seated during lectures. So once you are assessing risk from the objectives of the business point of view, chances are you are assessing risk from the immediate benefit or aim of the project point of view. Okay. So we have all these risks. There is more. Just take note of them so that you can be able to appropriately answer them. You are welcome, Yusuf. So let's come to risk mitigation. Okay, Ima, raise your hand. Use your reaction button to raise your hand so I can see you and give you the opportunity to ask your question. Yes, Ima, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, please, my question is not directly related to the topic, though, but I want to ask it. So I wanted to ask, why is it that the whole KSB, there is no summer hat? Since you were talking about the building, because of risk, you plan the way you want for us. I want to ask, why the whole KSB? There hasn't been any summer hat for us to sit when we come to class.
Okay. That is a very important question. You see, summer hats are sitting areas. If you look at this, our old building, you see that behind us was bush. Though we could have cut out that area and do a summer hat. In fact, I don't know why we did not create summer hats there. Maybe because the students didn't show interest, but we had a bush canteen there where students could sit to eat. And perhaps that may have accounted for why we didn't think that we should build summer hats there. What we are trying to do now is, the center of that new building, not where the green grass has been planted, no, where they are now paving. I think summer hats will do around that place. And I want to believe that will be our next project. This particular postgraduate center has really, really stretched us. The project started as a 52 million Ghana cedi project, and currently its value is at 117 million Ghana cedis. So it is really, really draining the coffers. But it's a concern that has been noted, and I'm sure we will discuss it and make sure we give you summer hats. I went to the College of Engineering and I saw their summer hats. I went to the College of Science. I saw their summer hat. But I know we have a summer hat in the new building. I just hope they will do it. Okay. Thanks for asking, Ima, and thanks for prompting us. So, to mitigate a risk, please take note of this. to mitigate a risk. Princess, there is no program that is not accredited. No program. People just behave as if they are kids. No program is allowed to run. They are talking about re-accreditation. And GTech wants us to re-accredit undergraduate programs every 4 years and postgraduate programs every 2 years. It takes up to 6 months to prepare a re-accreditation. And it costs 6,000 cedis per course. So you multiply the 361 courses, assuming without admitting, and I know it's a lie. The person just thought you could just put, at that time, the government was looking for VCs to remove. That's why the Auditor General came here and any explanation you were giving them. We ourselves have submitted documents to NAB and they have not had the capacity to come and assess the courses. Because remember, universities like KNUST, University of Ghana, and Cape Coast are like parent universities. UMAT came from KNUST. UNER is from KNUST. UHAS may have come from Legon or something. So if you have to come to accredit our programs, from where will you get the personnel? And you cannot take our own personnel to come and accredit our own programs. So NAB itself is challenged. So whoever made that publication did so out of malice or out of ignorance. It is not the case that we run programs that are not accredited. Who will allow you to run? In any case, remember that we have a presidential charter. To be able to run a degree program in Ghana, you need a presidential charter. That is why, even though some of the private universities have accreditation, they will need to be affiliated to a public university to be able to run because they don't have presidential charters. Okay, we'll leave it there. Like I was saying, if you have to mitigate risk, you are targeting the reduction or elimination of the consequence. So you are either doing things to minimize the effect of the consequence, or you are trying to reduce the likelihood of occurrence. That is mitigation. So one mitigation strategy is to do nothing. If the likelihood of occurrence and the impact is minor, you don't spend any money again, or you don't take any serious action to minimize or eliminate the risk. But if you are pursuing minimization as a strategy, then you are taking steps to reduce the effects. So you can do so by contacting clients, by maintaining contact with clients and stakeholders of the project, or making sure that those things that will happen to create the risk are minimized. Wow. So when you, like for example, you have a warehouse, you have wires hanging all over the place. You know the risk of fire is very high, but you can mitigate that by making sure that all the wires are hidden and all spoiled plugs are fixed. And you will have been minimizing the risk of fire, because as for fire, it is not only electrical gadgets that bring it about. You can share the risk by inviting other partners to join you. So rather than you alone embarking on a business venture and bearing all the risk, eschew greed and then invite people to do the business with you. That way, if there's any risk, financial or whatever, you are going to share it with others. You can transfer the risk by buying insurance. To transfer a risk is to make somebody else responsible for taking care of the consequence. So you are offloading the consequence of the of the risk event to a third party. Usually it is insurance companies who exist to do this. You can also mitigate risk by using contingency reserves. So you know that in the life of every project, we have unforeseen contingencies. So we have task contingency, that is money set aside to be able to take care of unforeseen events associated with carrying out the task of the project. So we are going to book the National Theatre. We are getting artists to rehearse. We are getting confirmation from artists. We can set aside some money that will help us take care of any unfortunate disappointment. Then we have managerial contingency. This is contingency that is based on force majeure, natural disasters, disasters that were never anticipated. So we say that this managerial contingency becomes necessary when there's a major scope creep. We talk about scope creep as a deviation from the planned activity. When we think of carrying out a project, we plan the activities. So when you deviate from your plan, we say there is scope creep. When the deviation is serious, then it is a severe or major scope creep. And managerial contingency is used to deal with that. Yes, thank you, Solomon. I am coming there. Then we have mentoring. You can mentor people so they know how to carry out the activities they should carry out so that they don't run into the challenges that you may have run into. So our parents mentor us so that we don't run into their own challenge. Of course, I acknowledge that some parents themselves are bad mentors, but our parents, generally our guardians, mentor us to become more responsible people by avoiding the mistakes of life or the mistakes they may have made. You can do cross-training, that is moving people from department to department and training them so that when they have to carry out any project, they are able to appreciate what each of the other people should do. That is cross-training. So now let's go back to our matrix. You have seen accept, minimize, share, transfer. There is one that is avoid. Avoid, that one didn't show up here. To avoid a risk is to stop the project activity altogether because the risk is too high. That is avoid, A-V-O-I-D, avoid. So you can avoid the risk by stopping the project. Okay, so now let's go to this. Let's come here. If you were to determine that your project risk or the activity risk you have just determined falls in this second quadrant, what do you think you should do? Which mitigation strategy will you adopt? You can type your answer in the chat. Okay, Dominic says accept. Yes, we can accept. And then we progress. You can also minimize. Elias always second by stating yours. Like who did this? Who said yeah, accept, sure, accept, So you are supporting and yet you are also stating yours. Okay, what if we are in the light blue quadrant where likelihood is high but consequence is low. Yes, we can accept, we can minimize as well. So again, here to accept and minimize are welcome strategies. What if we are in the yellow? That's the first quadrant, where likelihood is low, but consequence is high. Yes, we can minimize, we can transfer, we can. I'm listening to you. Until they say, I want to know what caused the deviation in the costs. Two factors, fluctuation and variation. It is said that, yes, share all the answers you have given are all right. You can only not accept, but you can minimize, you can share, you can transfer, you can cross-train, you can mentor, and you can set contingency. All of that are valid. Now, variation is when the scope of the activity increases or changes. I don't know how or at what stage. According to them, some new facilities and features were introduced into the building. I was part of the building from the scratch. The architect did a very good job, but I dare say I gave him the skeleton. I was sitting down and I sketched it, the beak of the fowl and the head of the fowl with the name of that, those red things on the fowl. It has escaped my. I sketched it, and then the architect went and did a wonderful job of putting it on the, and then we have this building. But some way, somehow, they said some new features were added. I don't know which. And then the dollar rate has also been deteriorating. Yes. You can use that, because that will avoid fluctuations. You see, because very soon the contractor is going to start coming back to you to say the money you have given them is not enough. But to lock them and prevent cheating, you do the project in, you cost the project in dollars. Except that it will mean you need more CDs, but it will give you peace of mind. I'm telling you. Okay. Now, yes, the comb and the water. Yes. Let me see, who is that? I tried to remember it, I couldn't. Right, thank you very much. Maybe I should give you some 5 marks or 10 marks. Okay. Oh, but you have done well, thank you. So that was the whole concept. And then it just gave birth to the building we are seeing. Okay, let's go on. If we were in the red, avoid, yes. Princess, that is a typical avoid case. But depending on how important the project is, sometimes avoiding may not be an option. In that case, transferring, that is buying insurance, or setting aside good contingency will be the way to go. Okay. Thank you for participating. All right. We will leave it here. And Is it the CPI, SPI? The CPI, SPI.
I don't know. That's what.
Who said I should go over the costs? Are you referring to the CPI and the SPI? Okay. Let me just bring up my electronic board and take you through. So you see that in the management of costs, we have some end value analysis. We have what we call end value analysis. In the end value analysis, you are trying to find out how far the project has come, what has it earned. So, you know, we have two things. When we schedule, the schedule brings us costs. So scheduling allows us to know how long an activity will take. And then once we know how long an activity will take, we are able to appreciate how much it will cost us. So because of that, there are 3 independent variables and 5 dependent variables that helps us to do this analysis. So we have what we call the planned value. And the planned value is that cost we arrive at the time of planning the activity. At the time of planning the activity. So we are here planning a musical concert at the National Theatre. Is that okay? If we finish and determine that the entire musical concert should cost us 100,000 Ghana cedis, that 100,000 Ghana cedis becomes the planned value. You can also call it the budget at completion. So budget at completion. That means by the time we finish the project, we should have spent the 100,000. So take note of this. The planned value can also be synonymously called the budget at completion. But planned value can be for activities, but budget at completion must be for the entire project. Taylor, okay, I think you mistakenly put up your hand. So we have planned value. Then we have actual costs. As we spend the money, we know the actual. Let's say our actual costs up to the stage where that we are reviewing is 60,000. Then we are going to have what we call the end value. You know, as you carry out the project, you are delivering on some activities. So if an activity should cost 10 cedis and you are able to finish that activity, it means the project has earned that 10 cedis. It's just like we working. If every day KNUSD will pay me 10 cedis and I work for 2 days, it means I have earned 20 cedis. So if, for example, we say that a particular project is, if you can't see, then that is bad. I guess some of you can see, right? I'm sure many of you can see. So we can say that this project is, and this one is usually quoted in percentages. So we can say the project is 40% complete. Now, if a project or an activity is supposed to cost 100,000 and it is 40% complete, what it means is that the end value will be 40% of the planned value or the budget at completion. And this should give us 40,000. So now we have carried out an activity, and that activity should have earned 40,000, and yet we have spent 60,000. So these are the three independent variables. We use it to calculate 5 dependent variables. So the first of them is cost variance. That is, what variation are we seeing in costs? And that is supposed to be the end value minus the actual costs. So anytime you want to know your cost variance, look at your end value against your actual cost. Let me give you a typical example. For those of you whose fathers are like mine, my father will give you all your money. So the semester, when we were coming to the university crowd there, we're not lucky to have him to be giving us money because he had passed. But when we were in secondary school, at our time, you go for first semester, 3 months, 4 months. So we go in September, October, November, December, we vacate for Christmas. So 4 months. And then my dad says, okay, every day you are supposed to send, for example, 2 CDs. So 4 months, 120 days. 120 days times 2 CDs is 240. So he brings your 240 CDs and gives it to you. It means any day you sleep and wake up, you have the right to spend 2 CDs. That is, yes, Aaron. You spend the 2 CDs. So if the semester has just gone 1 month, 30 days, it means you have earned 60 CDs. If you go and check and you have spent 80 CDs, then you know you have incurred a cost variation of -20. So here our end value is 40,000 and our actual cost is 60,000. That will give us -20,000. And you know, in finance, when we put a figure in brackets, it means it's negative. Now, when cost variance is negative, it means, yes, until they will learn to manage. Like me today, I'm able to manage with my money, with all of us, our salaries. I'm able to do a lot more than some of my colleagues. Okay. So when cost variance is negative, it means there are cost overruns. It means that activities you have carried out to date are overrunning money meant for activities you are yet to do. It's like money you have spent since the semester started is overrunning the money you are supposed to spend on days yet to come. Oh, my kids, I do same. They haven't gotten to, it's now that one, as the first one is in secondary school. And he knows, I give him his money. When I call him to find out how he's doing, we don't talk of money. Oh, you want to know? Hassan is at Achimota. Okay. So we have cost overruns. It means cost of activities carried out to date are overrunning the cost of activities yet to be carried out. Then we also have the schedule variance. SV. And that is end value minus planned value. You see, end value is the value that is generated as a result of being able to carry out the activity. You know, when you carry out an activity, you generate a value and you expect the value to be equal to the cost you incurred in creating the activity or carrying out the activity. That's why I'm giving you these several examples. You are giving money. Your dad told you every day you should spend 10 cedis. It means in a month you are supposed to spend 300. If you decide, if you wake up every day and it is night, it means you have earned to spend 10 cedi. Tomorrow is night, you have earned to spend 10 cedi. So if it is 5 days, it means you should have spent 50 cedis. That's what you have earned. It is the value generated as a result. So as a result of your being able to survive these days without touching your money, you have earned 50 cedis. But we have the actuals. That is what has really happened. Those are the actuals. And then we have the plan. So schedule variance is, our end value is 40,000 minus plan value of 100,000. And we'll get negative 60,000. So if SV is negative, the implications are two. Either the project is running behind schedule, or it is an ongoing, or it is an ongoing project. It means the project or the activity is incomplete. But sometimes we want to know what is the actual effects. So we calculate two indices. The first one is the cost performance index. And then the schedule performance index. The cost performance index is given by end value over actual costs. So our end value is 40,000. Our actual cost is 60,000. This is 2/3, and that is 0.67. It means that for first, so it means 1, the cost overrun is confirmed. You know, we calculated the cost variance and we said there is cost overrun if it is negative. And so cost overrun is confirmed. 2, it means that for every 1 cedi spent on the project, only 67 pesos value is got. Another way of saying this is to say that there is 0.33 pesos waste. It means when we spend 1 cedi on the project, we get a value of 67 pesos in return. Or said another way, when we spend 1 cedi, we waste 33 pesos. So usually, the interpretation is the difference between the cost, the CPI, and 1. So to interpret is always CPI minus 1. So that if you get negative, it means cost overrun is confirmed and there is waste. Then we'll just look at the SPI and then call it a day. SPI, which is schedule performance index is N value over plan value. Our N value is 40,000. Our plan value is 100,000. That will give us 0.4. So this is more serious. So 1, it means the project is behind schedule. Steward, your hand is up. Okay. Okay, I guess it's a mistake. All right. So it means the project is behind schedule. And 2, only 40% of scheduled activity is completed in a given time period. So when we schedule activities, we expect to finish 100% of them. However, as a result of certain unforeseen contingencies or even negligence or carelessness, we are able to complete only 40% of scheduled activity. You can all calculate your scheduled performance index. When you wake up in the morning and you make a list of all the activities you want to carry out in a day. When it is evening and you are going to sleep, look at how many of the activities you have been able to carry out over the total number of activities, and you will know what your scheduled performance index is. You can also calculate your own cost performance index. How much were you supposed to spend today, and how much have you spent? When it is time for you to go to bed, do that calculation. If you realize that your answer is less than 1, you can celebrate. It means you are saving money. If your answer is more than 1, it means you are spending more than you should. I guess this was an old statement from Emmanuel. Okay. Unless there's anything else somebody wants me to do, it is 9 o'clock. I am still in the office. Many of you are at home, so I also have to go home. I don't give tips, Philip. But you were in my management science class. As for exams, it's going to be 100 questions. So it's going to be multiple choice. I expect you to learn everything, master what you want to master. Oh, I don't give tips. I don't want it to be a part of me. You can contact Mr. Caleb and he will decide whether he wants to give you the video or not. But I don't mind if he gives it to you. The computation questions. But you see, you just saw me set a question. Didn't you see me set a question? I just told you what the CPI is, and then the actual cost is, and the end value cost. The end value is normally given in percentage. Yes. Oh, I love all of you, but I don't want giving areas to be a part of me, because my belief is that problems in life don't give you areas before they come. They just come and you have to deal with it. Yes, my advice to all of you is that your life is very precious. Don't do things that will bring you into challenge with the law. believe that nothing in life comes easy. Anything you take easy, its end is not always pleasant. So where you can do things in an easy way, why not? Don't choose the hard way, but don't think anything in life will come easy. Money for your family, the choice of a husband or a wife, they all don't come easy. You have to pray. You have to open your eyes. You have to have a checklist. You have to make sure that you take a lot of factors into consideration, because though divorce is allowed in Islam, it is something that God hates. So marriage is not something experimental. When you get jobs, don't think that the job will immediately bring you money. Many of us, you see driving cars, is from many years of toiling. Your day will definitely come. You all have a lot of value, whether you are graduating with first class, pass, whatever. You have a lot of value. Let your value shine your way. Don't compromise on things just because everybody is doing it. No. So it says, in a scenario where you have two starting activities, all not having an immediate predecessor, you draw them separately before the third activity is tackled, right? Yes, you do so. Yes, Juliet, I have had a wonderful time with all of you. Some of the things I do them because I want you to pick some values in life that will help you navigate some of the difficulties life will bring you. I wish you all the best. It is my hope that I see you in a better way than I know you today. But in all of that, remember, life is not a race. Don't compete with anyone. Don't compete with anyone. All right. Have a good evening, and I wish you the best of luck in your exams, and I wish you the best in life. I'll meet you in the exam hall, and I wish you well. See you. May all of you have the best of life, and your may roads be rough. Oh, somebody says I should wait.
Yeah, most of that.
Oh, yes, Apple. I'm very grateful for your kind words. Sometimes when students say they love me, sometimes I feel like they are not telling me the truth. But I have gone to places, I have seen people show me love. I pray that someday when I see you in a big position, you will remember that I loved you and I did things to help you reach where you are. All right. Good evening. Bye. Priscilla, your hand is up. Is it a mistake? Otherwise, unmute yourself. Okay, John, Eliasu, unmute yourself.
Hello, Doc.
Yes.
Okay, so, sir. First of all, we want to say a very big thank you for all the advice throughout our 4 year stay on campus. I wanted to ask if we can come for a recommendation as well.
Oh, those I know I do recommendations for them. So why not? You can come. You only know I will laugh. Those of you who don't like class, I keep attendance sheets. All right, Ilyasu, you have the last word.
Sir, that was the same question I was about to ask.
Oh, why not? You can come. Just that you know I will laugh. So if you are coming to class, I will know. I will give you a good recommendation. If you are not coming to class, I'll advise you to get it from somebody. I don't want to use my hand to give you a recommendation that everybody will not admit you know. I'll tell you the truth. All right.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Antile, I thought I said the two of them had the last word. Okay, I'm listening to you.
Sir.
Yes.
So we are going to miss you a lot, and we would love that if you could have given us your number. So anytime we need advice from you, we can. In fact, your way of thinking, maybe from first year, we would have been thinking that you were harsh on us and you were difficult, but getting to understand, we know that it was, you wanted to prepare us to face the realities of life. So want to keep in contact. You kindly give us your number or something.
The class rep asked my number. We communicate a lot. So I think Juliet can give it to you. She's free to. She has it.
Thank you.
All right.
We admire the way you do things, at least some
Yes.
of us, if not.
All right. Yes. I wish you all the best. Bye.
Bye.